A very good evening and welcome to the Fourth Estate. Charles Mongu Shampagi. It's been a busy day in Kampala. Celebrations Kampala Capital City Authority with the city carnival. So street and the town, the city has been quite busy for much of the day. But also coming from a mega celebration which unleashed the biggest traffic jam in the city on Friday. The Uganda Police Force marking 100 years. Actually, from 1906 to 2014 is 108 years of policing in Uganda. And the theme was from colonial policing to community policing. Has police lived up to this? Tonight we'll be discussing policing and politics. Let me introduce the guests in studio tonight. Starting with a man who was at the helm of the police force for the longest period until Kade Kaihura overtook the record, has set a new record with his new term. Actually, it begins in November, next month. Yeah, he starts on his new term in November. John Kosi Odomel, you're most welcome to the Fourth Estate.
Thank you very much, equally to the viewers.
Odomel was Inspector General of the Uganda Police Force from 1992 until 1998. Is that correct?
True.
And you served the force for how long, generally, as a police officer?
17 years.
17 years?
Yes.
And you retired?
1998.
Mm-hmm. When you dropped from being
Inspector General Police, yes.
What have you been doing over the years?
I've been a small farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, God is great, He's the provider. Except to have to thank Him, praise His name, glorify Him for what He provides. Good enough, my children still go to school.
Okay. Gilbert Gumoshabe, Dr. Gilbert Gumoshabe is a social anthropologist and lecturer at Makerere University. You're most welcome.
Thank
Dr.
you,
Gumoshabe.
and good evening, viewers.
We have Mr. Andrew Felix Kawesi, Assistant Inspector General of Police. He is a Director of Operations in the Uganda Police Force. Very nice to have you.
Nice to be here, and good evening, viewers.
I know many people still remember you as Chief of Kampala Metropolitan Police. You promoted this to this new. Recent changes put you into this directorship.
Yes,
of operations.
that's right.
And my colleague Chris Obore. Chris, very nice to have you always.
I thought you were going to say the IGP in waiting, Felix Kawesi. You know most of the boys here, and at least he trained them in Masindi. Now he's the director of operations. The next obvious that he will be the overall boss.
I am told that is politics within the police
force. I hope
force.
he calls us for the party when he becomes one.
I am told that is politics within the police force. I wouldn't want the Fourth Estate to get into the internal politics within the police force. But talking about parties, we missed a party where the IGP was, and he didn't invite us, unfortunately. But we'll discuss that offline once we get out of here during the break.
And you might forget us as well when he goes there.
Let me start with you, Chris, actually. You saw the mega celebration of the Uganda Police Force, and we're discussing policing and politics today. The journey of 100 years of the Uganda Police and where it finds itself. Do you think, in your view, that the Ugandan Police Force has achieved community policing, or that is just a desire by the Kawesis and the Kaihuras and the people who manage the police force?
Achieving community policing. I think there are two things you need to separate. First of all, what is the nature of the police force that we need as a country? Because they will tell you it is in their vision and the mission to be a police. What is the vision of the police? To be a pro-people, delivering efficiency and this kind of thing. That is okay. And when I'm looking at the police, if you look at the police from a political lens, we won't have trouble. Very, very big trouble. If you look at the police from the technical aspect, you begin to appreciate some of the milestones that they are making. And I'm sure that will preoccupy Kawesi's work. Technically, I don't even want to say that Kaihura has achieved much in the police force, as people are trying to drum this. For propagandist reasons, if you are known to Kaihura, you would say, oh, he has done a lot to transform police, he's doing all this. No. What Kaihura is doing is building a foundation, perhaps to a better police force. So when you call that success, then you have not defined what a good police force is. Because I happened to read, which was published actually, a letter by General Kaihura to the police authority as to why he needed another term in office. The challenges actually were enormous. So you cannot say now that he's been successful, even when he himself knows that there's a lot of work to be done. So on a technical aspect, the police has a lot to be done. But what is important for Kaihura, for those who support Kaihura, is that perhaps he's doing the right thing to take the police there. I can agree with that. He's doing that, arising out of his personal attributes, who Kaihura is. You know, other than my Musei Odomel, who was a bureaucratic police officer rising from a command. You know, there are people of systems. You sit in the office, you tell this, DPC, that. But the challenge was growing. Kaihura brings in another aspect of a military aspect, that he is on the scene. And that's where the Kawesis all are now. Those are the beautiful attributes I see in General Kaihura's management of the police force. We usually used to corrupt about their corruption. You go to a police station, the policewoman is doing other things. But these days, if one can access Kawesi or access Kaihura, Kaihura is there. That to me is a good disposition for an IGP. But if you ask the politicians that how do you rate Kaihura and Kawesi, they say, they are done nothing. Their work is beating up people. So that's a different debate altogether.
We'll come to that in a moment.
Yes.
Let me turn to John Kosi Odomel. You had the police for quite a bit of time.
Yes, about 7 years.
Yes, and now you're retired, you're watching the police from a distance.
True.
You receive police service like the rest of us, I would imagine. How do you rate the Uganda Police Force today?
I would think Uganda Police Force of today has grown both in strength and capacity to match the population growth and the new trends of crime. In the strength, I mean to say, for example, when I was the police chief, our number was merely about 14,000 compared to about 44,000 now. And as a result,
what was the population?
Population may not have been big as such. Could have been about what by that time? 92?
About 13 million.
No, 92 was about
17 million.
About 17 million?
17 million.
Say 20?
Okay, whatever it was. But still the demand of the police services was quite high. That's how we started establishing very many police posts, because there was a demand of police as regards security. And as compared now, because of the population growth, the present police has developed a lot of capacity in a lot of specialized training. During my time, we did not have a counter-terrorism police because I did not have that challenge.
You had a special branch?
Special branches are in intelligence,
yes.
But counter-terrorism, specialized units to crack them like these terrorists now, Al-Shabaab, I did not have that specialized unit. So there are so many other specialized units, like forensic department. I had only a small scene of crimes. But now we have a very big forensic lab in Uganda, which could be biggest even in East Africa. And they can now handle DNA tests, unlike mine. So I'm giving this example to show that our police force, unlike mine now, has specialized more to match the crime trend.
Why didn't you desire those things as police chief for the time you were police chief? Didn't you desire to have a big forensic lab? Did you desire to have a large scene of crime officers?
What really happens and what is important, which affects all this, is the level of the revenue of the country. Because if you now can compare that time when I was IGP, basically we were relying on the British aid. But as of now, it's your tax money which is facilitating your police force. All these fleets you see is because of your money. So it's a question of revenue.
Well, we pay taxes then.
Oh yes, you do.
And we still pay taxes today.
But
it's the question of he who allocates the revenue deciding whether to give you the money or not. And if I could remember around your time, the police was always constrained and saying it didn't have money. And some of the interpretation was some of your challenges were rooted in your political orientation.
Not quite or political. It could have been here, but what is important that the present police has more challenges, new challenges that which I did not have. Like during my time, I would say the political weather was always dry and clear. As compared now, the political weather is cloudy in the Kampala area and uncertain, although in some parts of the country is dry and clear. Therefore, the present police has to be well prepared to meet such challenges of political weather, uncertainty. So it has to be prepared, equipped. So some of these things which I do not have, it is because I don't have such a necessity to prepare for them as compared now. Like cybercrime. My time it was beginning to be hard off, but now the police force of today has a specialized department of economic crime and so forth.
Maybe you help us know, was an ADF a threat then? Was in the war in the north a threat to the police? Was in the war in Teso a big problem?
ADF
Did it necessitate the flying squad at that time?
ADF came yesterday when I left the seat, but still.
ADF came in 1996.
And no, just
October
even,
1996.
Just even to chip in, some of these units were even there. Talk of flying squad, they had what is called anti-robbery. It was specializing on highway robberies. It would not go into serious violent crimes, which are even of terrorist nature. So the crime trend and levels of crime of that time determined the formation of the units at that time. Not because they were so much constrained by resources, but the crime levels would determine the units it would form. And that's what he was trying to explain.
But I'm happy, Felix, that you came in here. People look at the police force in 2014. You've recently been moved to head operations within the force.
Right.
And people were looking at you and saying, these changes, 2015 is going to be a busy political year. Felix Kawesi has exemplified himself dealing with political demonstrations in the city. So they're thinking, this is positioning, deal with political situations wherever they arise in the country as director of operations. And people are looking at the police and saying, look, this police is not the traditional policing system that Odomel headed. This one is a largely politically aligned police force and whose main intention is to deliver political dividends for the people in power.
Well, the main intention of the police all the time is to ensure law and order. And that's the principal function of the police. I don't want to speculate what will come in 2015 in terms of political developments in the country. I don't anticipate
It is your job to read trends.
I don't want to anticipate.
No, I was looking at your I was looking at your budget. I was looking at your budget and crowd control, the challenges that you anticipate, apart from terror challenges, are clearly aligned to the political environment that you're going
but
to.
Not in 2015. It's a situation you have been in, and we anticipate that can be there all the time, not specifically in 2015. So I don't think my change of office is aligned to that. I think it's just appreciation of the service I can render at that level, and here I am. Yeah.
Can you speak to the question that always arises as to the resources made available to the police force? Under your time now, and under Inspector General Police Kale Kaihura's time, there seems to be a lot more political will to make resources available to you than there was in 1995, for example, in 1996.
I think situations have changed in terms of space and time. As the Inspector General of Police Emeritus, Kosi, mentioned, we are dealing in a society which has completely metamorphosized into a very, very highly demanding society. the expectations are high, agitations are high, and of course this requires the police that is prepared to handle such society. In terms of equipment, in terms of budget, in terms of training, definitely it's not the same. They had a small budget. Today it could be tenfold of what we have today. We are running a budget of about 450 billion Uganda shilling, which we think is not even adequate enough to actually address the operational challenges we have. And
what would be the ideal budget for you?
First, the ideal in terms of strengths. Don't even talk about the terms of facilitation to do the work, but the strengths itself. We still have a deficit of about 30,000 policemen and women to fill the gap, because we would wish to have a ratio of 1 to 500, 1 policeman to 500 citizens, which is still not yet achieved. We are now at 1 to 800. So we have a deficit of about 30,000, and we would wish this to be addressed. But the budget isn't enough to handle that.
Okay.
So I believe in terms of growth, we are not the same. You're handling less than 20 million. We have closed 40 million. The strength they had was 14,000. Now we are 35. So really, the situation can't be compared now.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Let's have Gilbert come in. Yes.
But when you look at the budget, still it is going to increase, because the nature of our politics is geared towards people putting crowds, even sometimes to commit crime. And if budget is not increased, then they will not be able to manage that situation. Crowd control has now become a reality. Politicians, who are the ones actually saying that the police is getting more funding, getting money for crowd control, are the ones who are instigating people. They are putting them, whenever they have a small complaint, the only solution is a demonstration. And the way the demonstration is dealt with depends. If you have not got a permission from the police, definitely police will come in to enforce order.
Do you think, Dr. Gomoshabe, that it's an anthropological disposition of Ugandans today to be more interested in expressing their discontent through demonstrations?
Yeah,
what has changed?
The trend in most cases goes with the developments available at that time. So if you have people today behaving in a certain way, and you introduce something new to them, there is the tendency of trying to follow it up as the best way of handling your problems.
There have been situations in this country when the only solution to political questions would either be through a coup or through going to the bush.
Yes.
Yes. And it's one way. It's not being exposed to something better or worse. It's a response that people apply to try and get a better situation.
In most cases, when the trend comes, people want to welcome it, and they try to follow it. And it's a question of time that it gets outdated. Coups are outdated. And if you are to venture into bush wars, they are also outdated. After learning the experiences you go through, then there is a tendency of changing, and you also look for another way. Just like how we have for demonstrations, it will be a question of time that people realize that actually every time you go into a demonstration, you lose more than what you gain. Then they will try to devise some.
Just can I explain something here?
We need to take a break. I'm being told that our time for the break is. Can you explain after a short commercial break? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we're discussing policing and politics. 180 years of the Uganda Police Force, did the celebration on Friday, unleashed a tremendous traffic jam, clogged the entire city. Actually, I should have complained, because if it was someone else, he would have deployed the tear gas trucks to make sure that he tries to clear the roads. But since it was police, it wasn't easy. Chris,
Yes.
you wanted to come in and just before you
Yeah, because the issue of demonstrations have come in, and there is a big gap in this country in understanding this phenomenon. Well, we may not blame the police for reacting the way they are reacting to stop these demonstrations, because directly they work on orders. But we cannot blame people for choosing to participate in the way they are governed. Demonstrations simply could be arising because of lack of a good governance principle of participation and inclusiveness. So you do not tell people it is wrong for you to demonstrate because the police will spend a lot of resources stopping you from demonstrating. We should be asking the leadership that why is the trend of demonstration growing in this country such that the police is supposed to react the way they are reacting. No, we take positions and feel like demonstrating is a criminal act, which should be separated. It is now the behavior of some participants in the demonstration can be taken away by the police without condemning the act of demonstration, because it is at the core of citizen management. How well can I interact with the state? How well will I say my dissatisfaction if I am not allowed to mobilize, to assemble? Those freedoms are enshrined in the Constitution, which I'm sure the police have. So the difference then is the opposition tend to blame the police, and those who believe in the police tend to blame the people. Let's separate those things. That participation is a core principle in a leadership. When you see many of your children at home rebelling, there is a problem. Don't address the rebellion itself. Address the root causes of this rebellion. So most of us, including the intelligentsia, have taken positions, and we are urging from those positions without trying to unearth what the problem is. So increasingly, the police ask for a bigger budget because there is a problem. And those in the power are not addressing the real problem of participation and inclusiveness, and then we're in a cycle. That's what I was looking at. So the other thing is, if we are saying the police is growing in strength, I want to agree to that chance. The strength is growing. But there are issues I want Kawesi and the Museo Costa de Mel to address here. The purpose of the police, the work of the police can only be reflected on what the citizen says. It doesn't matter how many equipment Kaihura will have, how many policemen Kaihura will have, how many tear gas canisters Kaihura has. That will only be strength for the police, but not for the citizens. What does the citizen want? The citizen wants a speedy and accurate investigation of a crime. The citizen wants an honest treatment of citizens who go ill-reported there. The citizens want to see a police officer whose dignity is respected. Therefore, a citizen who does not sleep in near sewage, like it happens in Zambia, a police officer who is going on duty without lunch, sometimes eaten by their bosses, a police officer who is living in a gate with a house with electric gate, when the police officer guarding him, walks home. So when we are looking at the police, let's remove the political lens and help Kaihura to focus his attention. When he's growing in police, what is his legacy? For now, we are saying one of the greatest legacies of Kaihura for me is having to have police have their own headquarters. Now, what I want to see more from that big budget is that the police stations are not some doka shops somewhere. We take photographs of the police. When we went to Masaka Road, the police were operating like some lumpens. In fact, they're like drug dealers holding somewhere. And you call that a police station? Those are issues to be addressed in the police.
Okay.
So when you're talking about the growth of this budget, show me how it reflects in the well-being of an ordinary policeman, because you, Charles Mangusha, and the citizens never interact with the police as Kawes has it. The police you interact with is of a traffic officer who meets you on the road. What do they do?
And flags you down.
And flags you down.
Let's throw this to Kosi Odomel. Issues of welfare. It's okay. One of the biggest demonstrations under the current police force was the lorries of equipment that was being shipped in. You meet that in crowd control police, the way they are geared up. But when you go to where police live, in the barracks, there was an attempt, Kira Road, put curtain walling. It's being done in Wandegea now. You attempted to do it at Shibuya, marking the police that police station. You have attempted to do it. You don't, even today, you don't want to look at the Naguru police post. Police barracks. They look really ugly. And say, how much have you moved to the realization of from colonial policing to community policing?
Well, what I know is in process is the law has been made where there is now what they call PP, private partnership,
Public.
yes, with the investors, whereby the police will agree with them, for them, the investors to construct for the police many skyrocketing apartments in exchange with a piece of land where these commercial investors will put some commercial activities for a period of time, and when that lease expires, such property reverts to the police. So that's one strategy.
Can I change that question a little bit? Do you think, you have been retired for some time now, do you think the question of police welfare has been adequately addressed?
It has not been adequately addressed, but it has started. We'll give you examples. Apart from the accommodation you're talking about, welfare encompasses a lot of things. My police force was not as smart as the present one, because what matters in the police is the first impression. My policemen had tattered clothes.
But you were blamed for it.
As
As IGP, you're blamed for it.
No.
You took the political responsibility at the time, you took the political blame for the state of the police. I remember there was a complaint, I don't know if it was shortly after 1996, when the president complained and said, if I contested against a cow, it would defeat me at a police barracks. Because the interpretation at the time was the police was reacting to that election by largely voting opposition. I think it was much more 2001 than 1996, to reacting to say, the political side doesn't feel us. We also don't feel you. And the question boiled down to the question of welfare of the police. Where did it feature in government planning? Well,
not every policeman, and in fact, there's no record to say that not all policemen voted for the government. It was an individual decision to vote the way they did. But what I'm trying to explain before you interrupted me is that, for example, now, the present police administration is making its own uniforms. It has opened a garment factory, and it is planning to have all the uniform parts made here in Uganda. And also it has now a police shop which sells tax-free cement, iron sheets, nails. That's to enable policemen now to start thinking of building their own houses. It has a circus.
I read Fande Kawesi's interview the other day, and how he was talking about how that has been beneficial, how it's been helpful, the police shop. But before you come in, Andrew, just before you come in, one last question to Odomel this round. If you were to head the police today, what would you change?
The challenges, my strategy will be based on the challenges of the day. Just like now, this Al-Shabaab, depending on what grade it will have gone, highlighted, my budget will be there. My strength, my training will be geared to the challenges I would confront at the time. And that's what is actually happening. With the police, you think is militarized. The police, as you claim it, because now the trend of crime is of military nature. Therefore, the police have to be trained to counter that.
Do you think it has been militarized or not?
Remember our society now, with this introduction of demystified knowledge of handling firearms, most of them have abused it for committing crime. And we have so many other people who have retired from other armies who are jobless. So the nature of the crime now they face is mostly of a military nature. Therefore, the present police also has to match by training and equipment to counteract that.
So you think it's a good thing?
It is. Any policing all over the world, it is strategy, its plans is to match, be above the criminals.
Okay.
I wanted to comment about the police welfare. Apparently, the demands are outstripping the budget allocations. And then the challenges are also outstripping the budget allocation. If the money that is going, say, to buying equipment was going to welfare, welfare would be okay, they would have good houses, but then what would happen? Would they sleep there and when crimes are being committed?
But I don't see you going to class at Makerere to teach when your welfare hasn't been addressed. You actually, lecturers at Makerere lead in striking because questions of your welfare haven't been addressed.
We are narrowing the discussion of welfare on a small aspect of it.
Yes.
Welfare is relative, basically. Welfare, I would look at it in terms of a policeman having the ability to perform his core duties efficiently. Yes, it comes from, it addresses a number of issues from where he lives, from the workplace, from the knowledge he has to serve, from the equipment he uses, from what he gets in the pocket at the end of the month, from the public appreciation. So it's a continuum of many aspects which we must look at it in total terms than focusing on where the policeman lives. In terms of all other aspects, I think we have moved quite relatively better than even other government institutions. And I can tell you.
Give me some figures.
Give
me some figures. You have a work plan for the police on where you want to take it. You had a plan for equipment that the police needs.
Yeah.
You have a plan for the kind of accommodation you need, both for officers but also for residents, for policemen. And I know that you've been toying with the idea for quite some time of whether you need to release the police from the barracks and have the police live within the community instead of living within a confined barracks. I don't know how far that has gone, but would you be able to tell our viewers and say, we have moved 3 steps in addressing this welfare? We have handled equipment, we have handled what comes into the pocket, we have handled the ability of a police officer to respond to the challenges available. Now we are moving towards this.
Yes. Just quickly, we've handled really quite a number of aspects of that. In terms of quick services, you can see how mobile we are in terms of vehicles, in terms of motorcycles, in terms of equipment and the scenes of crime. There we are doing quite better than we were. When we look at in terms of the efficiency of the policeman, how he's trained, the skills he has, we are doing well. In terms of office space, I mean the office workplace, we are doing well comparatively, because when we look at, the services are highly demanded, that we have even gone up to a parish level. We are almost going up to the village level. But when you look at the station level, even you look at here in Kampala, the station, look at all the stations in Kampala, they are all good stations. They are new stations. Some of them are community built out of this community.
Where are all the good stations, the new stations you talk about? Where are they?
In Kampala. Tell me of a station which is dilapidated. Tell me of a station in Kampala.
Ginger Road is smelling.
Ginger Road?
Yes, it's smelling.
Ginger Road?
Kira Road.
But I think
that's unless you don't live here, go to Old Ginger Road.
Felix, let's give you feedback. This is not faulting the police, and I'm not here to fault the police, but I'm here to be candid about the police, irrespective of whether you are my friend or not. Because at the end of the day, this is the feedback that will help you perform better.
Correct.
One thing you must learn, there is something wrong in this country in totality. The aspect of monitoring and evaluating government performance is totally poor. So there's a disconnect between the policy makers and the policy implementers. In the process, you must devise a mechanism through which the police can actually begin to assess its performance. Because I get a feeling, when you sit with the Kaihura in the boardroom, you seem to be thrusting out very good directives, very good policy framework, very good thing to do, and you are now satisfied that you're performing. But every perception index from the consumers say the police is the most corrupt. So that hurts you to be the most corrupt. And instead of being hurt, you should now be thinking, why, with all of these interventions who are coming up, why is the consumer
continuously saying we are corrupt. Instead of you coming to blame the consumer for telling you what they feel. This is what I want you to learn from.
Right.
That don't blame the consumer for saying what they are saying. Go back and analyze. Is there a loophole in our implementation strategy? If we have said there is, for instance, you talk about a police shop, it helped you. I don't think a policeman in Bukedea benefits from the police shop.
Yeah,
I don't think a
He
policeman
does.
in the Buma Islands
He does.
benefits from the police shop.
He does.
How that you may know it in your office, but unless you follow it up to actually know that the policeman has benefited from the police shop, you want to know. Therefore, you're denying Kaihura feedback. Therefore, his intervention will be based on false feedback.
Okay.
So it is important to say these things as they are.
And
And if I tell you, with your force has grown, by the way, today police has so many graduates. But the question will agree with me that there was a special branch of the police in this country. Where did they draw their manpower from? From all-level dropouts. The highest educated were diploma holders. But special branch was thorough in terms of crime detection. What we are seeing today, because of Kaihura's passionate way of doing things, he wants things to move, systems are not moving, he has ended up creating a reactionary police force. So proactive policing is dwindling, reactionary policing is coming on the rise. It is not bad. That means intelligence, the crime intelligence you are running, the crime detection, the other internal security organs like ISO are not working in tandem with the police. Therefore, there's a disconnect between the commission of crime and the stopping of the crime. So that's a challenge for you. It is not a condemnation that you are doing nothing. I don't know, I'm talking about welfare of police. Honestly, if you give a police officer a truck to run around, yes, he will run. But that police officer knows at home it is raining, now it's going to leak, my baby. So even if he's in your truck, he's not performing. He's present there, but it's not working.
Okay.
Because you're not addressing the issue of his house.
Let's have Gilbert come in.
But I
here.
think, Charles,
Yes.
I think here we are missing a point. One, we are not saying that we have arrived. That's not the point. But let's appreciate that we have achieved. A lot has been achieved. And
What does the feedback you get tell you every time they assess
And let me refer to an internal assessment policy that you have. You release an annual crime report.
Right.
And consistently, from about 2009, the annual crime report indicates to you that people report to the police not because they expect solutions from the police. People are progressively from I think you had a growth percentage. 2009 was 300% of people trying to resolve their own issues. You come and report to the police, but you go to try and resolve your own issues your own way.
No, but Charles, reporting to the police does not actually mean that there is a crime committed. Actually, most of the cases reported sometimes end up not being even cases to constitute, incidents to constitute cases in court. Most of them are even left at that level. Because just you pick a quarrel with a friend, you run to a police report. You find you've reported 700 cases in a month.
To be a thief, you report to the police, but you lynch him.
And that shows the confidence the public has in the police. If anything that happens in a community, they run to the police to report.
Yes, but they lynch. When they want the problem solved, they lynch the person they suspect.
I think lynching is not loss of confidence in the police. It is more of values that have actually gone down. The social and social politics.
That's what Chris talked about, you blaming the consumer instead of addressing what might be.
No, we don't blame the consumers. The consumers have a duty to play, by the way. It's not only that. When you agitate for your rights, you must also know that you have responsibilities. Do you think you have lived up to what you claimed in the main theme of your centenary celebrations, from colonial policing to community policing? We chose that theme just because we wanted to make a statement that we are rebranding. There are things that are not going on well that we must address, and we have to stand up and say, yes, we are not doing to the best of the expectation of the public.
We need to take a break. Let me just have Gumosha come in for about a minute, and then we'll take a break.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the question of welfare, and the people reporting a crime, and then police takes long to react. As the person in charge of operations now, you need to always establish why are people reporting and the police officers not responding. Maybe you need to ask the police officers. I know that you have a hierarchy of arresting them, putting them in prison, why they have not performed their duties, but also establish why don't they respond. I read in the papers today of a woman whose borders were stolen, and the suspect was released. The suspect is once again threatening the woman. She's living in fear, and yet the police is not acting the way it should act. In such a situation, please try and investigate and know why are police officers behaving that way. Is it related to welfare? Are there incentives, just like this police shop you have put in place? It makes a person want to remain in the police. I will lose this. If I lose this chance of buying goods at duty free, really, am I doing the right thing?
Okay.
The person will get this commitment to serve the police.
Okay, we have stretched our time a little bit, but Dr. Gumosha, let me come back to you on this. Why do you think, as an academic, that it is okay for other people to agitate for their welfare, and we do not want, and someone would want to keep the police living on hope about its own welfare? I use the example of Makerere University because it is a clear example. You can go to Chambago University, you can go to Gulu University, you can go to any of these public universities. You can stretch it down to secondary school teachers.
Yes.
They don't feel comfortable, they ask questions. When it comes to asking the same questions for people serving in the forces, they say, no, we are addressing that. You can be patient. We have provided equipment. No one tells teachers at Makerere that we have, you have many fantastic buildings that have come up around Makerere. They look beautiful. You have now improved the gates. You have worked on that. You tried to build the wall. But when it comes to welfare of academic staff of Makerere, the discussion is different from when it comes to the welfare of police. What informs that?
No, I think depending on circumstances available at the time and the requirements you need, welfare is important. We have to admit that welfare of any person.
Are the circumstances of a lecturer at Makerere any different from a policeman at Kira Road Police Station?
Definitely, if the person has a leaking roof, it's important that that roof be attended to. However, there should also be personal initiative. They should not look at those facilities as government facilities. If you are residing in that house and it is leaking, you haven't seen the greatest area of innovation. The greatest area of innovation actually in terms of that. You go to Naguru Police Box, you see they're building with I'm saying
let's take a break and come back.
It should be attended to.
100 years of policing in Uganda. Actually, the real number is 108 years of policing, and the police says from colonial policing to community policing. Has the Uganda Police Force lived up to that? This is a question we leave to you, our viewers, to continue debating via the NTV Facebook wall once we get out of here. But we'll come back to that in the last segment. We'll be right back. A police tied into politics or aligned to politics? Has it addressed the welfare questions of the Uganda Police Force 108 years later? Let me start with John Kosi Odomel. The question of welfare. You have people in that police force who have the same aspirations as everyone else. So you cannot keep telling them, be patient, at least we are coming. You know now equipment you have. You're attracting graduates into the police force today. The welfare question has remained on the back burner ever since the police was, maybe colonial police had better their welfare better addressed than we have today, because all the police barracks, all the police headquarters that you have, all the police stations that you have here are colonial constructions.
True.
You have very little of present day construction. So have we moved from colonial policing to community policing in terms of a policeman and a policewoman out there?
To answer that, I would begin by informing the viewers that the numbers, the strength of the police force is growing very rapidly. The colonial police was just small. As we talk of now,
The policing challenge was actually small.
well, the resources were enough to accommodate the number of the police.
The resources we have today are enough to accommodate the numbers of the police, because 1962 the Ugandan population was about 8 million. But 2014 the numbers of the population is maybe 35 million. 1962 the Ugandan budget was possibly less than $1 million. Today you're talking about 15 trillion Uganda shillings.
As we talk, the police, I understand, is intending to recruit over 5,000 shortly, on top of the 44,000 they have. So the growth
Is
to
it
meet
44, 35?
You know, when you count from the Inspector General of Police to a special police constable, it's a number is expected to be around 43. But in terms of real strength, doing work, it will be around 35,000.
And you announced massive promotions the other day, 4,000.
Yes, and that you don't mention that as the welfare.
Yeah, but you're
You're
complaining
talking
about
about
taking
what?
people. No.
Actually, I'm not finished with me.
What do you want to
Because
say?
really, you have invited me here to give the public a view or image of the police from where it was the time I was in charge and the state now.
Yes.
I want to inform you and the viewers that the police has developed in all aspects, both in the capacity, strength, and the challenges of welfare actually being addressed. And I've given you examples. So it's not being ignored, except as I was telling you, the numbers of the police are growing rapidly to meet the present challenges. But something is in the plan for them. I've given an example of PPPA. And then the police construction unit, Kawesi will tell you, is much more expanded. It has over 35 hydraulic machines.
What has it constructed so far?
Houses for the policemen, except the number is so overwhelming. So something is being really done to that. I'm not being defensive, but I'm giving a hope and a comparison to the members of the public that police is not really interested in numbers, not welfare, but it is thinking about the welfare of the police. And I have given an example. Police now are smart, in spite of the accommodation problem they have. Medical, police now has got over 35 ambulances compared to what I had that time. And these ambulances actually, more than maybe government ambulances. Police ambulances are doing public services. So, and they now have a hospital soon, more modern hospital. So all these are to address really the welfare of the police. I know, and I'm also sad about it, where they say they live in. But the authority is planning. I wish Kaihura himself was here to explain.
You're feeding people on sugar
And I think
because I don't want
and
to,
we've run the last
yes, I
quarter,
don't
so we
want
need to.
sound like one thing I'm interested in this debate. That's why I'm removing it from the political discussion of tear gas. This somebody calls Kaihura found tear gas. Those are political questions, not to be addressed by Kaihura, but to be addressed by political actors. It's why we are focusing on the issue that Kaihura should be addressing. This is a feedback session for Kaihura.
But
And when former
have an
IGP
equal
says,
responsibility as an IGP and Andrew here as Director of Operations to remove the police from being asked those political questions and saying we are a professional force, because during Odomel's time they would tell you police was a professional force, it did what it was supposed to do. If a politician came and said do this, they'll tell him that is not within our mandate.
Unfortunately, Charles, that's the mistake we make. We want to remove the police from political questions, not knowing that the police is under political command. So change the command. The police will do what you want. That's what I'm saying. If today I'm a president and I appoint the Kaweshi to head the police, he must head them to my satisfaction. So the question of police being political should be addressed at the political realm, where I'm thinking many people have failed. Let me come to what Koshi Odomel is saying here. We are not disagreeing with your assertion that the police have grown in numbers, the police have grown in equipment, the police have grown in ambulances. The question we're asking, we must examine your assertions. Yes, what is the outcome of this numerical growth? This is what we're asking. We are not doubting the numerical growth. We are asking the overall result of this growth. The other day, a police spokesman for Kampala Metropolitan, Onyango, had taken his wife to Mulago. They didn't get attended to.
So when you talk about police ambulances existing, they go to which hospitals? Do police have specialized hospitals for themselves? They go to where Obore goes. They go to where Charles goes. And what Obore goes is bad. And if I tell you, if you talk about the police budget growing, 450 billion, where I stay, they haven't withdrawn a police post. Why? There is no accommodation.
Okay.
They can't even afford rent. So after 100 years, Charles, our police cannot afford rent, and we are still celebrating that.
We are not talking
Felix, before you come in, let's have Odemel complete his thought, and then I'll come to you, and then I'll come to...
He has asked me what is the
Dr.
implication of the police strength, growth in strength. Look, this development where now trading centers are becoming towns means people are assured of their security. People are transacting their business up to midnight because of police presence. That's why there are many police posts now, many police stations. That is a reflection of growing in the strength, and the fruits, the benefits, is economic development.
Did you hear him talk of a woman whose motorcycle was stolen?
Those things happen once in a while.
Let's have Felix come in. Felix, what is your own assessment?
That is organic growth.
Your
growth.
Let's go back to those basics. What is your own assessment? And do you think that the questions raised of your approach to political questions is justified?
It is absolutely justified because and I want to just actually to agree with what the Inspector General of Police earlier on mentioned in one of the interviews he had. He said the police should and will never be partisan. Should never be partisan, and I don't think it will ever be partisan. But you cannot separate it to be political, because in essence we are one of the political actors, if you are to go into your interpretation of what is politics. And that's clear. And I can tell you, as Chris said, a firm foundation has been laid. The police is now in charge of public safety. The public is safe. There are isolated incidents of crime, like a woman complained the border was taken. It can't be. You can never have a crime-free society. Even in Vatican, there is a crime where you have almost 90%. They are all clergymen and clergywomen. You can't be with a society without crime. But let's agree that the institution has grown in strength and capacity to protect the public. I will just give you a picture of what is happening in terms of addressing the welfare of our personnel. We started with our strategic approach was that we first handle the areas that did not have, which had this small police presence, and that was Karamoja, northern Uganda, after the war. And the concentration was done there. Go there. There are barracks, but we don't even have personnel to live in those barracks. New barracks, new police stations. And we are moving towards Kampala. You are only seeing Kampala where there are old barracks and all this. We are coming to that. And the approach we are using is the public-private partnership. Soon you are going to see this accommodation problem addressed. The salaries of their personnel. Gradually, of course, you can't address only the police. It is all public service. You have to look at all the institutions in public service. The salaries are not yet up to the best, but I think they are better, far better than they were. Why? Look at the level at which we are professionalizing the institution. Right now, if we had no ceilings, we would have thousands of graduates joining the police.
I actually wish, and this debate will come after we are out of here, because it will be largely on social media. And our listeners have been demanding that we allow them to call in. There are policemen who are watching you now, and they're saying, yes, he's our funder, but is he actually addressing our concerns? Is he speaking?
Yes,
is he speaking? They'll say he's removed from us, from the reality with which we live.
No. And I don't want us to hide. I don't want to hide the head in the sand.
Felix.
The truth is, there is a strategic, committed plan to address the welfare of our personnel. He mentioned about the duty-free shops. And for your information, even every day, the demands and the application for having these duty-free facilities or items is overwhelming.
Okay, let's bring in
A constable, you know what,
let's
many of
bring in
them have
Dr.
built
Gumoshabe.
houses.
And then let's bring in Dr. Gumoshabe on here. If you track the journey of 100 years of the Ugandan police, 1906, 2014,
108 years.
108 years. And someone will tell you the colonial police served colonial interests.
Yes.
The political police, the police of post-colonial Uganda has served political interests.
Yes.
And though the ideal would be that the police functions as a professional force in the middle, that when you get entangled in political questions like we have seen in this country, since precisely it says since about 2001 today, that the police either has lent itself or has found itself. Is it an accidental and intended by the police to find themselves having to face the questions they face today, especially from political actors on the opposition?
Yeah, from the colonial time up to the present day, the structure of the police has not basically changed. There is an ideology that has always been followed. You always have to serve the master. So you can't move away from having a regime in place and you don't serve it. Otherwise, if you are contrary to what the regime wants, then definitely the regime will throw you out.
Is that universal applied? Or
Yeah.
it's unique to Uganda?
Well, if you go to developed countries, if you go to the United States of America, they have what they call American interests. Unlike in the developing world, where we have the interests of the people in power at that time. You see, one thing we have to know about power and contestation is that in the developing world, when you get power, the next thing is how do you maintain power so that there is order. Minus that, there will be chaos. So we have not yet reached the level of the developed world where you find, like, for example, the budget. You have a national development plan. The budget is made according to the national development plan. And you plan according to what will serve the interests of that country. As of now,
why should we be comfortable in that kind of situation?
No, it is the transformation of society. That's how the society develops over time. When you look at the stability we have had over the last 28 years, apparently, you can see that now there is institutionalized movement. We are moving towards the right direction. If we continue at this pace, leave alone the political point of view, but when you look at the way institutions are being developed, for example, how the police is developing over time, you can see there are challenges they are looking at. How do we have a formidable police force for Uganda?
I want to agree with Dr. Charles.
Chris,
Doctor, you're using a very critical point, that what happens obtains in the developing world is different. And that's why I told you in the very beginning, political issues should be addressed located where they are. Many times, even there are people in opposition, they are happy to block a police budget. Yes. Because it's going to police, it's going to Kaihura. Instead of examining the police budget and say, what of this, how much of this budget is going to police welfare? And then they say, okay, we are passing a police budget, but a large chunk of it is going to police welfare. They are just interested in blocking the budget of police. And then yet you know, the people in the police, Charles, are your relatives and are my relatives. They are your uncle, they are your sisters. They are your children. You cannot then expect to run Uganda when you're denying other Ugandans who are in service what is due to them. And then you say yourself a political actor. That's why you see some political madness in this country. Politics without sense. Politics of only of market vendors. That me, I want to get this and go home. That's why we must locate it. Yes, Kaihura and Kaweshi are acting politically. But there must be a budget for people whom they are using.
Yes.
They must have the office equipment. They must sleep well. And if you're a politician, you scratch police budget on the basis of where they putting the majority of the money. On equipment, we're not going to put that money there. Police, Kaihura, allocate this money to barracks.
Okay.
Allocate this money to this. We don't see that. And I disagree with the Museo Domel to say there was no money then. I can inform you now, the time then there was no oil. There was no VAT. And all of this means money. So you can't say, oh, there was no money in 86. There was also no oil in 86. You have seen the amount of bribes people are taking in oil money. If those bribes were going to police officers, there wouldn't be a problem. So absence of resources is not the problem. It is poor allocation of resources. And in the case, Charles, world over, problems are never new. It is the solutions we prescribe that look different.
Thank you. Let's have Mzee Odomel come in here because we're about to end this discussion. tracking the journey of 108 years of Uganda Police Force, where do you think, or where would you want the Uganda Police Force to be in the next 10 years?
I would just say, I drove in a Maram Road with the potholes. Kaihura is now driving on Tamaka Road. But in the future, the new driver of the blue, white striped bus, I think should drive on a motor highway. That is, if the requirements will be provided, whereby the police will retrain, and be well equipped and look into the welfare of the police, and we shall have the perfect police force to match the situation at that time.
Felix, let me come to you as we come towards the end of this discussion. And I'm going to take you back to the questions of your political alignment as a force, because that centers the discussion that people have about the police largely. Because the police people interact with, until you go to, I come to police offices, either to interact with people or trying to find answers to certain questions. But majority of the people deal with the policeman who runs to a scene of crime. They deal with the policeman they find at the counter who records their case.
Right.
They deal with the traffic officer.
Yes.
Yes, they deal with the traffic officer. And the perceptions have been that largely because of the anti-riot presence of the police, the other aspects, and maybe traffic police, the other aspects of policing get lost. So a lot of the achievements you have made get lost in the criticism that comes because it is more direct. How are you addressing that?
Well, I think that could be a myopic analysis, that all what is done is being overshadowed by the anti-riot engagements. A lot has been done. If you want to look at the performance of the police, you look at the scale of fighting crime. How is it going high, or it is going low, or it is stagnant? That's how you could analyze the performance of the police. And my only appreciation is that actually the level of crime in the country has tremendously gone down, and we are doing much better than we were a few years ago. And comparatively in the region, the same in terms of fighting terrorism, in terms of fighting really high sophisticated crime, which is a big problem in the region. Uganda Police has performed very, very well. And that's not an achievement of one unit. It's an entire institution. So by and large, the institution has performed well. The political inclination or political alignment you're talking about, well, the institution will continue to serve the people of Uganda and pursuing the core mandate. We can't change that.
We'll have a long debate about that. Our time is out. We need to get out of it. I'm afraid our time is out.
Why? First of all, Ariong was widow. You know Ariong?
Yes.
He was killed in the riot. This affects how police
Yes,
work. The president selected to build them a house in the village. They renovated one. They built them a house in town. Up to today, she has no house.
It's going to be built.
When you are celebrating the Jubilee Charles, there was Oriama's deputy in this country, Jonathan Inyalio. Not even a single mention that Inyalio was Oriama's deputy. Actually, it was more technical than Oriama. He was killed in 88 on December in Ogoma, just in Ikumi here. And you see, those kind of things.
There are many people that have never mentioned this. We are going to get all of them.
Which committee was
we
this?
have already even met the son of that.
He struggled to look for you. I actually had to work hard to help him reach you.
Yeah, but we did.
How did your committee ignore? What were you looking at?
Our time is out. We need to get out of here.
Inyalo is already there, a deputy of Oriama. You don't do anything.
But they knew I was the chairman. Why didn't they come
Why
to
did
me?
you look for it? You are Inspector General
I
of
looked
Police.
for
But
many of them.
Charles, we are rebranding.
No, you are
In
already
the
left
next,
out.
in the next,
No, they didn't bother. If I'm
in the
there,
next
why didn't they
century.
get in touch with
The
the
son
police?
has been running around.
Gentlemen, we need to end this. Yes, in the
I was
next
saying, in the next century, police is actually going to be more and more better rebranded than it has been. And we are the last time on the ceremony, the president officially launched community policing as the doctrine of police operation.
They say
and that
the
entrenches
taste of
us
the eating,
more.
The taste of the pudding.
the taste of the pudding is in the eating.
Kaihura
And the
has
verdict, the
reawakened a
verdict
sense
is
of
not
duty,
for
but without
you to
welfare,
make
we
here.
get tired.
Actually, the verdict of whether crime has gone down or up